Aloha and welcome to Hawaii Sports Update. I'm your host, PJ, once again here with the legendary coach, Tony Sellitto, retired HPU, the only basketball coach to bring a national championship to the state of Hawaii in the basketball level. And of course, the NCAA finals just ended with the great game between Duke and Wisconsin, and we're going to discuss a little bit of that and just talk basketball in general. And maybe about some of the characters who stock raised up during the tournament might have helped them out, and just basically about the NCAA tournament itself. Coach, what do you think about the game last night? I mean,
well, it always seems that championship games are really exciting. A lot of people are interested, and I was telling the guys, the only person who picked Wisconsin was probably from Wisconsin. Everybody else picked Kentucky.
Yeah.
And of course, you like Duke always because of Coach and Coach
Right.
K, and he really recruits really well. So I thought it was an interesting game, and I thought that I had picked Duke, not because I had any superior knowledge than anybody else. A lot of people pick Wisconsin, but I just thought Duke, when Coach K made that statement that in the beginning of the year they beat Wisconsin on the road at Wisconsin, and I don't think people quite understand. I've always said this is one of my favorite sayings. Boys win at home, men win on the road.
Absolutely.
You win 65% of your games at home, and since Wisconsin was such a big pick, even early in the season, they were picked number 2 by a lot of the magazines. Duke beating them at Wisconsin was really a big deal, and I think Coach K said, well, if we can do that, we can certainly win this game, and they went and did that, so it was really exciting.
Absolutely, especially that early on in the season. Now, and as to put this in perspective for Coach K, I mean, this is his 5th title now, Coach. Everyone's saying that he's second, of course, behind the legendary John Wooden, but don't you think Coach K has had to adapt his style? Because before, Duke was not the university where freshmen would come and they would go, and now it's sort of like they're adapting to it. And he had 4 freshmen on the court, Okafor, Jones, Winslow, and Grayson Allen, and that would be unheard of from Duke 10 or 12 years ago.
Well, I think what happened, somebody I was talking to, one of the guys, and they had said to me that Coach K really didn't pick McDonald All-Americans because they were one-and-done players. They'd come a year and then they would leave. And what he found out is that, of course, he lost those years when he didn't get those one-and-done players and those McDonald All-Americans.
Right.
Aside from the fact that he's a very good coach,
Right.
was the fact that he now gets McDonald All-Americans, and they're very, very good players. And everybody knows, you really do have to have good players today to win. So combined with his coaching and these terrific players that he recruits, like Jahlil Okafor and Tyrese Jones, I think that really goes a long way in helping him win games. What really impresses me, and I have said this so many times, I'm tired of saying it, and people, I don't know if they understand this. In Hawaii, Dave Visoji won 1,000 volleyball games.
Right.
Now, I don't know if people have a concept of what 1,000 is, but that's a lot of games.
Absolutely.
I've been coaching 40 years, and if you combine my wins at Marinol and my wins at HPU, I wouldn't have 1,000 games. Les Murakami won 1,000 baseball games at UH,
Right.
and that is such a tremendous figure. I mean, it's inconceivable. You can't even think that high. And then Mike Krzyzewski wins 1,000 games at Duke, playing a Division I program. So
Right.
it's just mind-boggling, and people really don't know not only how great that is, how difficult it is too.
Well, the longevity is definitely the key to that. But not only that, you have to have a consistently good team to play at a high rate to have that many victories above the longevity. And so you just have to give kudos to people who last that long and are doing it at such a high level. Give kudos to all 3 of those people that you mentioned, without a doubt. Now, How many of these freshmen do you think are going to stay at Duke? Winslow, they're trying to say that his stock has risen since the NCAA tournament. Jones and Okafor are pretty much gone. What do you think is going to happen to Duke? How many of those guys?
What I think is going to happen, if anybody watched the McDonald's All-American game, there are about 9 uncommitted All-Americans playing in that game.
Right.
They haven't decided where to go. And I think what they're doing is sitting back, waiting to see which guys leave Duke, which guys leave Kentucky, and then they're going to sign with those programs.
Absolutely.
I mean, Kentucky's already the #1 team as far as recruiting goes for this year so far.
Right.
So I think they're just going to sit back and see what happens, and whatever happens, then they're going to jump in. You're not going to go to Duke if the point guard decides to come back, because he's going to be doing all the playing, and you're not going to play. So if you're a great point guard, like there are, McDonald's All-Americans are truly outstanding players. There's no sense going there. You're not going to go if you're playing in back of Jahlil Okafor. What are you going to do? Just give him a rest every once in a while? Because he's going to play all the time.
Absolutely.
He's a terrific player. So, I mean, I think that's what a lot of the players, a lot of the great high school players throughout the country are waiting for. And then we'll see what happens. It's not going to take very long. I mean, you have to do your recruiting all the time. So I'm sure they have their hands in some of these great players, but they're going to have to sit back, the players themselves, and see, so that if those guys don't move, they'll go to another school, I'm sure, another big-time school, and rather than sit on a bench. Because any player who wants to sit on a bench, you probably shouldn't recruit him.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Calipari went in the papers and said today that he's expecting to lose 5 to 7 players. The Harrison twins, he believes both of them are leaving. I don't know how good of a NBA prospect they'll be. They showed a couple of holes in their games throughout the tournament as far as, especially defending athletically against some of those point guards in the NBA. Towns is gone. Cauley Stein is going to be gone. They even say Decker from Wisconsin is thinking about leaving. I mean, what do you think about all these people who stock have risen a little bit with this NCAA tournament and are on the rise to possibly get drafted?
I think that PJ, first of all, it's a very difficult thing. Secondly, I think that if you are going to go to the NBA and you're a guaranteed lottery pick, right around there. I mean, I think then it's beneficial if you do that. And I certainly wouldn't want to hold anybody back that was, had that kind of ability from going. And of course, he doesn't have to worry then about, his future financial success, because that will happen if he doesn't get hurt. So I think that's okay. But when you start getting to be a second-round pick and you think, well, if I work, and I don't think that works too much, because, I do a little scouting, and everybody has an idea of who can play and who can't play, and some people, of course, more than others. And you don't make many mistakes. A lot of scouts don't make mistakes about really good players. I mean, Jahlil Okafor is a very good basketball player. I mean, and what you recruit a Jahlil Okafor for is because, you think, well, I really don't know how good he can be. Now, is he able to play now? No. But will he be able to play in a year or two like Davis from the New Orleans Pelicans? He could be that good very, very easily. So you pick on their promise. You pick on what potential they have and how far they'll go. Okay. And I think a lot of them should go, and I think some of the people showed glaring weaknesses. Willie Stein, he didn't even make a jump shot in the last game. He scored 2 points, which was a dunk. He was 1 for 4 from the floor. And what Wisconsin was doing was not guarding him at all. They were leaving him open 3, 4, 5 feet away from him and say, go ahead and shoot. You're not going to make it anyway. Well, when you start playing in the NBA, I don't think you'll be able to dunk quite as easily on a guy like Jordan from the Clippers or Davis from the Pelicans. So you better develop a shot. And that brings into play a lot of things that people, I don't think, quite understand. You have to have a shot clock. You have to have it in high school, and you have to have it in junior high school. Now, what Europe has done is instill the clock in junior high school and in high school. And as a result, as you all can see, you don't have to take my word for it. You can see European big men being much, much better shooters than American big men.
Absolutely.
Big men are tough in the post, 2-3 feet away, but you start taking them out 10, 15 feet, they start losing their effectiveness. The reason for that is when you have a shot clock, and that shot clock is running down, a 30-second shot clock, and that shot clock is running down, I don't care who you are, I don't care where you are, you have to shoot that ball rather than take a turnover.
Right.
And what's happening in Europe is all those big men are stepping out and shooting a 14, 15-foot jump shot, whereas in America, that doesn't happen because the shot clock, some high schools like in Hawaii, they don't even have a shot clock.
Yeah.
So you don't, you know, you have to be able to dribble, you have to be able to pass, and you have to be able to shoot. But if you take any American player, I don't care where he's from, I don't care what part, if there's no time clock, if there's no clock, and he's a great dribbler, he can dribble around the court for 10 minutes and you win the game. Yeah. He can pass the ball to all the open guys because he's a great passer off a dribbler.
Right.
So it makes your game kind of convoluted. Whereas in Europe, you better be able to put the ball up, score, you better be able to dribble, you better be able to pass. And I think that's a big advantage, and that's why you see so many European players in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Because they're able, there's a shot clock.
Especially, you know, 6'9", 6'10" guys who can stretch the court.
Absolutely.
That's a. Okay, now here's an interesting guy, Jacob Podol, the center from Utah. Now, this guy in the Sweet 16, he basically held Okafor to 6 points, and they played him head up, and he's a 7-footer. And I found that to be an interesting matchup because Duke's guards won that game again.
I saw that game, and he's a European guy.
Yes.
And you know, they're much different players. I've had Europeans. The reason I started to recruit Europeans at HPU was because you couldn't recruit American big guys because they were already signed. So you had to go to Europe and get them, and you know we were lucky enough to get Hannes Hyde and Jurgen Malbec and a lot of big guys, a lot of 7-footers that could play really well because they were from Europe and they were used all over the court. So another thing you brought up, the guards had to win the game. Listen, in college, guards win the game. Absolutely. I don't know why people. Guards win the game, time after time after time. That happens. And people have to understand that if you have good guards in college, you are going to be successful. Absolutely. That's not necessarily true in the NBA. You can have good guards and you can be successful, but big men are successful, make you successful in the NBA, not little guys.
Yes, especially defending the basket. Now, if you have somebody who's borderline, like I'm not going to say that the Harrison twins are borderline, but I mean, we've had off-camera discussions about them. And you know, by the time they get to their junior year, if they go back to Kentucky, they should know that, you know, maybe the NBA's not in it for them. You know, maybe Europe or something like that. I mean, for some two guys who came out so highly touted, I think their game's been exposed by just better all-around players, especially at the guard position.
You don't have to say they're not ready for the NBA, but I'll tell you they're not ready for the NBA. I mean, if I was going to draft somebody, I certainly wouldn't draft those two guys. I mean, they're very, very good players, and definitely, there's no question they can play in Europe. There's no question they can play in the NBDL. And maybe 3 or 4 years from now, they'll step up their game, they'll work, and they'll become solid NBA players. But as of right now, I just don't think that they're quite ready. And if they came back to Kentucky, I think it'd be a good thing for them. The Kentucky definitely would then be top team because they're very good collegiate guards.
Absolutely.
And they may develop into NBA players. As I said all year on TV, Aaron Valdez made this enormous jump from freshman to sophomore, and last year I think he led him in scoring 13, 15 points a game.
Yeah.
He was so good. He shot the 3 really well. He was just a terrific player. Whereas the year before, I said, I don't think that good of a player, but he certainly worked hard, and now he became that good of a player. And I think the Harrison twins can do that too.
Absolutely.
I just think they have to take a little more time, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just that guys like Tyus Jones and Lillard in the NBA now, and some of these other guys are so good. It makes your performance don't look that good.
Right. All right. Well, we're here with Coach Tony Sellitto, of course, and he's dropping all his basketball knowledge here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We're going to go to commercial break, and when we come back, we'll wrap some more with Coach Tony Sellitto.
Hi, my name is Seymour Kazimirski. I have a show called Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. Our show is about opening minds and facilitating conversations. To tell you the truth, I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. I have no idea who our guests are going to be, but I guarantee you we're going to have lots and lots of fun. Aloha from Seymour's World.
Inspired by an ancient culture, classical Chinese dance, vigorous physicality, timeless stories, 5,000 years of Chinese music and dance. Shen Yun presents authentic Chinese culture. Coming to Blaisdell Concert Hall, May 8th and 9th. Tickets at shenyun.com or call 808-792-3919.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
Aloha, we're back live here at Hawaii, ThinkTech Hawaii with Coach Tony Sellitto, talking a little bit of NCAA basketball. And, you know, Coach, before we left, we were talking about some of the prospects and some of the guys who might have to go back another year, and also about Aaron Valdez, about his improvement from his freshman year, of course, to his sophomore year, the 6'5" sort of swingman for UH who made humongous steps this year. And you know, like Benji Taylor said, if he makes half the steps that he made from his freshman to sophomore year, he's going to be a great player. Okay, but we're talking about the European players, and we're talking about the shot clock from the junior high and the high school. Now, are you a proponent of the shot clock in college coming from 35 seconds to 30? Do you think that that'll help the game?
They have to. You know, I was talking to basketball once again, and the guy said, you know, if I have to go watch Virginia play one more basketball game, I'm going to sleep the rest of the season because, you know, they have such a good defensive team, and the offenses are not as caught up as the defenses in some of the teams. Now, here's what happens. When you reduce the shot clock to 30 seconds,
right,
now you have to make more decisions quicker, and you have to improve your shooting because you or I just cannot shoot the ball and hope that it goes in.
Right.
We have to practice so that it goes in. And when you do that, you up your game, the other team ups their game, the rest of the country ups their game, and there's no question in my mind that if the NBA has a 24-second shot clock, now come on, and girls have 30.
Right.
Come on now, you're not going to tell me guys can't have a 30-second shot clock. And even in high school, high school should have a 35-second shot clock.
Absolutely.
You just can't let them hold the ball. You get a 10-point lead, they take the ball out, they hold the ball, and everybody stands around, nobody improves. Your kid goes out and plays basketball, and what does he learn in a state where they don't have a shot clock? Nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now, not only shot clock, to me it seems like the mid-range jumper is almost a lost art nowadays. I mean, you have kids who can go to the hole strong, and you have kids who are hitting that three, but as far as, you know, the pump fake, couple of dribbles, take it inside and hit that 12 to 17 footer. I mean, is that just me, or is that almost a lost art nowadays?
Well, you know, I think that there's a lot of schools, you can watch them on television or watch them in your state when you go watch a basketball game where kids are just enamored with the three-point line. They go back there and shoot the ball, and they love shooting threes. You go into a playground and kids are all out at the three-point line shooting the ball. And so naturally they've lost some skills inside the three-point line, which, I hate to keep belaboring this point, which will change if there's a shorter clock, because you then cannot be selective as to where you're going to shoot the ball. Whenever you catch it and there's only 10 seconds, let's suppose you bring the ball up court, they're pressing you, the clock is running, you get the ball past half court, and instead of trying to score, you set up your offense, you look up at the clock, you have a 30-second clock, and all of a sudden there's 18 seconds left on the shot clock. Right. You have to do something. I mean, you can't just say, okay, I think I'll shoot a three. Let's run a play for the, it doesn't work that way. You have to get ready to shoot the ball, and all the players in all the positions have to be aware of the shot clock and have to be skill aware of where they're at and whether or not they can make that shot. So it changes the game completely. And the only thing about yesterday's game is, how exciting does anybody think it is for Duke to win the game 68-63? 63 points.
Yeah.
By a major college team that starts 7 foot, 6'9", and 6'8",
yeah.
And you're thrilled that the game was. I think that a couple of times I almost fell off my chair sleeping.
Yeah, well, not to mention 5 of these guys are going to be first-round NBA picks
And
too,
then,
right?
When you're in the NBA with a 24-second clock, I guarantee you, when you see those guys, Westbrook and LeBron James and those guys, and Curry going to the hole, they don't take too much time. They're going to be on you in an instant. They are so quick. It's absolutely amazing how quick they are and how quick they make that transition. And if you're a player trying out for the NBA and you cannot make that transition, you won't be playing.
Absolutely.
I don't care how big you are. I don't care how good you are or think you are. You're not going to be able to play because you got to shoot the ball in 24 seconds.
And they got to develop that mid-range jumper, man. I mean, that's just a lost art. I mean,
yeah, but if you watch if you watch NBA games, everybody has a mid-range jumper.
Yes, they do. That's correct.
Everybody.
That is correct. Because that they know that's one of those shots they had to develop. Now, just a couple more things, Coach. Okay, NBA playoffs, real quick. The East, Atlanta, Cleveland, Chicago. Do we need to talk about anybody else?
Cleveland and Chicago.
And Atlanta. Atlanta, Cleveland, and Chicago.
Well, I have always been, I've always had a problem with sports. I am pick a team because I like somebody. And I like LeBron James. I like the way he plays. I think he hustles all the time. I think he's absolutely super intelligent. And he puts the other team definitely on notice that you better be careful. And what people say, well, Kyrie Irving scored 55. Yeah, but they don't understand. He didn't have LeBron James.
He had the space to score 55.
He could have. A lot of people were looking at LeBron James, and he was scoring those 55 points. If you take Michael Jordan off that basketball team, they're not nearly as successful as they would have been with him on it. Like LeBron James, when you got him, come on, you got to watch out for him. So, I just think that. The East is, with those 3 teams, will be very representative, and it depends on how far they can take Cleveland, because I'm a Cleveland fan.
Okay, now the West is a whole nother animal. Okay, you have Memphis, Golden State, Houston, San Antonio, OKC if they get in, Portland, and the Clippers. I mean, what are you going to do with that one right there?
I like Golden State, and I like San Antonio. I think they play basketball. I think Golden State shows you the power of guards, and those 2 guards they have.
The Splash Brothers.
Yeah, Splash Brothers have been picked by Sports Illustrated as the 2 best guards in the history of the NBA. You don't have to say more than that. Curry is, I don't even want to.
Absolutely.
I can't even describe him. He's so good. And San Antonio, if you don't play team basketball against them, they'll pound you. Now, they've beaten Golden State, I think, 6 or 7 times already this year. So
absolutely.
Golden State don't scare them. So you got to be careful with them. And then I think in a championship like yesterday's championship, I don't know of anybody walking in and saying, Duke's going to win. Wisconsin's going to win.
Right, right.
You don't. You go, geez, who's going to win?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. And especially more at the NBA, it's a matter of matchups. Because you can catch a team like Portland, during the season, and they're a tough play. But then when you isolate them and get them in a 7-game series, you can exploit some of their weaknesses a little more.
See, you made a great point, though. Duke only had to beat Wisconsin once.
Right.
You play in the NBA, you got to beat a team best out of 7.
Absolutely.
Now that's a lot different than one win.
Absolutely.
Beating a team 4 out of 7 is a tough job.
And they got to do it 4 times.
So if you can imagine beating a team 4 times in the NBA in a 7-game series, oh boy, you must. Not only are the players exhausted, not only are the coaches exhausted, but the fans must just be ready to fall out of the stands.
Cheering exhausted.
Cheering exhausted. But anyway, thanks.
Yeah, Coach,
P. I really appreciate
we
it.
know you got to run. We're going to go on a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to have some Hawaii sports updates for you and new segment that we have. And Coach, mahalo for being here. It's always a pleasure to be here. And hope to see you back soon. Coach Tony Sellitto here on Hawaii Sports Update. We'll be seeing you.
Thanks.
Ohio, Happy New Year. I'm your host, King Zilly. From inner city out to the platform and now on the Yaf Show. It's a new year, and most would say a new beginning. So this is a call to action. As we promote tech, energy, diversification, and globalism, with ThinkTech Hawaii, the Yaf Show is all about advocacy for effective leadership, comprehensive youth policies, programs, and access to knowledge and information for upward social mobility, especially for the historically underprivileged youth. This means we'll be looking at young people making a difference in their community. Youth policies here in Hawaii, the country, and the world. We want to highlight youth programs that are meeting young people where they are, working together to accomplish a goal or tackle an issue while providing information and access to free educational content for anybody looking to learn on their own time, study for an exam, or simply refresh their memory. We do this by inviting everyday people like yourself, state policymakers, youth advocacy groups, youth programs, professionals, and so forth. But most importantly, we'll be partnering up with my new organization, causeeffect.org. More information on Cause Effect, as this website is currently in development and hopes to feature courses, seminars, tutorials, and conducting surveys that will be featured on the show. As we leave behind 2014, I wish I could say we leave behind issues such as police brutality, youth violence, education, economic mobility, and so many other hot-button topics that made 2014 a difficult year. So what does it mean for the new year? What does it mean for youth policy? What does it mean for Hawaii as a whole? And most importantly, how does it affect you and your community? We want you to tune into the Yap Show at 3 p.m. Friday and find out. Aloha.
Aloha and welcome back to Hawaii Sports Update. Of course, we were here with legendary coach Tony Sellitto, and a man like that is always very busy. We appreciate his time for coming by and stopping by and voicing his opinions, especially on the NCAA basketball game last night. And before he left, we were just getting into the NBA. Now, speaking of the East teams, Atlanta, Cleveland, and Chicago are the major threats in the East. And it seems like Cleveland has been getting their act together from earlier in the season and playing more of a unit. And that is involving Kevin Love a little bit. So Cleveland looks like that they might be the strongest team coming out of the East. But Atlanta, for how they've played all season, you cannot deny them that they are definitely a legitimate threat. Now, the West is a little bit different. All the teams are bunched up. The Clippers, Portland, Memphis, Golden State, Houston, San Antonio, OKC if they get in. But throughout the year, Golden State has been the most consistent team. They're ranked number one both offensively and defensively. And like Coach was saying, with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and you know, that defensive unit, Iguodala, you know, some battle-tested veterans also, especially after last year's early exit Golden State looks like they're pretty primed. But then again, if Dwight Howard comes back healthy with James Harden, that's always a formidable 1-2 punch, and you really can't, they can't be denied that they are a definite threat coming out of the West. The Clippers, they're like a funny team, they have the offensive potential and they have the leadership with Chris Paul to do a lot of damage, but what it seems during the playoffs, they just don't have that defense, and defense is what carries you through playoffs. You're going to have to be able to stop other teams from scoring in critical situations in order to move on in the NBA playoffs. So it's going to be exciting. They're coming down to the last few games here in the NBA, and then the playoffs are going to get started, and it's always going to be exciting right around June, July time when that comes up. Now, baseball has just started, Major League, and I always have to talk about my Los Angeles Dodgers. They made a couple of big moves with Jimmy Rollins and Howie Kendrick coming over, and of course, Jimmy Rollins hit the big 3-run blast last night to give the Dodgers the opening day victory. Clayton Kershaw went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs, looked sharp, had 7 strikeouts. But the Dodgers, I think, with that veteran leadership, is going to make big noise. Of course, you can't forget the San Francisco Giants. 3 out of the last 5 years, they've been champions, and they've always been a little thorn in our side. So it's going to be interesting to see how that rival progresses through the year. I think San Francisco is going to need a couple more arms in that pitching staff. They really can't count on Bumgarner, but Matt Cain, who has been injury prone, is supposed to be coming back healthy for them this season, and that will be absolutely huge for them if Matt Cain comes back healthy. Boston and Los Angeles, well, not Boston and Los Angeles, but Boston got Hanley Ramirez. They got Pablo Sandoval from the Giants. They have that connection with Dave Ortiz and the Latin flavor over there in Boston that's going on. Their pitching could be suspect, that's the main thing with Boston over there, and we don't know how that's going to turn out. The New York Yankees, everybody needs pitching. The only ones who have pitching, the only ones who do have decent pitching are teams that really don't have decent offense, like the Padres. You got to watch out for the Padres too. They're coming up. They have Matt Kemp, and they have a very deep pitching staff also. We're gonna go right now to this. What we have is a new weekly program here. It's called a weekly update, and it's going to be with myself, host PJ, and what we're going to be doing is updating sports weekly, and it's going to be shown on Mondays. I think before this show airs, it's going to be shown throughout the week about the updates that's going on, also nationally and also locally, covering everything from UH to Little League to whatever we cover locally. It's going to be covered by the weekly sports update, and we look forward to bringing you that information about what's going on in our community, what's going on at the University of Hawaii, what's going on sports-minded locally everywhere on this island. So my name is PJ, and we'll be looking forward to it soon. Aloha and welcome to Hawaii Sports Update. I'm your host PJ, and this is the weekly sports update. The Duke Blue Devils pulled away late in the second half behind 2 big back-breaking threes from all-world freshman point guard Tyus Jones to pull away from a tough Wisconsin Badger squad. The 68-63 victory by Duke gave Coach K his 5th national title, and his own legendary status continues to grow, as his current resume is second only to the great John Wooden. Tyus Jones was the tournament's most outstanding player in leading the Blue Devils down the stretch, with their big man Jamil Okafor and swingman Winslow were in foul trouble for most of the second half. Although Okafor had a couple of big hoops on a late 14-3 run, it was Jones and his crucial 23 points, including 2 humongous threes, that put an end to Wisconsin's final run. And we'll be talking about some of the other key characters with Coach Sellitto a little bit later. The UH women's softball team continued Big West play last week, taking 2 out of 3 from longtime rival Cal State Fullerton to improve to 4-2 in conference play and 26-13 overall. The Rainbow Wahine continue league play this weekend at Rainbow Wahine Stadium against the always tough Long Beach State, with a single game on Friday and a doubleheader on Saturday night, with the latter of the games starting at 4 p.m. Hawaii time. Starting shortstop Serena Jarmillo leads the Lady Bows in hitting with a .340 average, while Heather Morales and Kyler Wartner are hitting .324 and .318 respectively. Keiki Carlos is also bordering right around the 300 mark as well, but the Rainbow Wahine have found a power surge that they have been lacking the past couple of seasons. They have blasted 39 home runs as this team and has only given up 18 long balls. Kyler Warner leads the way with 8 jacks on the year. The Wahine are also getting steady pitching from Ina Cabrales, who bears most of the load for the pitching staff and has a respectable 2.48 ERA on the year to go along with her 13 victories. Looks like Coach Bob Coolin have the Wahine geared up for another NCAA tournament run. Finishing up, #1 ranked men's volleyball team took to action early last week in beating UC San Diego and battling UCLA, defeating both teams on the road in the always brutal Mountain Pacific Sports Federation. The Rainbow Warriors come back to the Stan Sheriff to take on the traditionally tough Stanford Cardinal team. Last week's victories put the Warriors at 21-3 overall and 16-2 in conference. That win over the Bruins put the Bows' winning streak at 14 games. The UH volleyball hit squad continues to get major contributions from senior Brooks Sador, Siki the Hammer Zarkovic, and All-American middle Tyler Averill. Senior Scott Hartley and local boy Capono Faye have also made major contributions to the team. The Rainbow Warriors have already clinched a home playoff game this year and are looking to continue their winning ways. Good luck, Coach Charlie Wade and the boys as they head towards the latter part of their conference schedule. This is PJ with your weekly sports update here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Thanks for joining us and see you next week. Aloha, my name is Paul Jackson, better known as PJ, and my local interest is in sports. I have my own sports radio show at KWAI AM 1080 that you can stream live. I also have my own website, pjsportsradio.com. We have live guests in studio, and we talk about discussions and topics that everyone wants to know locally here on the islands. We cover everything from surfing to basketball to whatever's going on locally, sports-wise. We try to do our best and cover the topics in depth as much as we can. Once again, thank you for joining PJ here on Hawaii Sports Update. Mahalo.